The Prelude, also called The Prelude, or Growth of a Poet's Mind, is one of William Wordsworth's most famous autobiographical poems. Written in blank verse, it explores the development of the poet's mind, his love for nature, and his journey toward artistic maturity. Today, we'll break down this masterpiece of romantic literature, covering its structure, themes, and lasting legacy. So, what is The Prelude all about? It isn't autobiographical epic poem that Wordsworth started in 1798 and kept revising until just before his death. It was actually published posthumously in 1850 by his wife. Mary Wordsworth thought of it as a kind of spiritual autobiography, a way to trace how his mind, imagination, and moral vision developed from childhood to adulthood. This poem is a cornerstone of the Romantic movement, a literary era that championed nature, imagination, and emotion over pure reason. Wordsworth's main goal with the Prelude was to show how his deeply personal experiences in nature, particularly in England's Lake District, were the very things that shaped him into a poet. It's a journey into the self, and he's taken us along for the ride. The Prelude is a long poem, divided into 14 books. Think of each book as a chapter in Wordsworth's life. It starts with his childhood, where he describes his early experiences playing in nature. He talks about ice skating, boating, and exploring the hills, and how these moments filled him with joy and wonder. These early years were fundamental in shaping his moral compass and creative spirit. Next, he moves on to his school days, covering his formal education, the friendships he made, and his first real encounters with literature. This is where his intellectual world starts to expand beyond the fields and mountains of his home. Then comes adolescence, a time when his love for nature deepens, and he experiences significant emotional and intellectual growth. He starts to think more philosophically about the world around him. This leads to his youthful wanderings, where he travels through the Lake District in Scotland. He's not just a tourist, he's an observer, paying close attention to the landscapes and the people he meets, gathering impressions that will later fuel his poetry. As he matures, he begins to engage more with society and politics. A huge part of the poem deals with his experience of the French Revolution. He travels to France and is initially swept up in the revolutionary excitement and its ideals of liberty and justice. This section marks a crucial shift from personal experience to broader social and political awareness. The final books, from 6 to 14, are full of mature reflections. Wordsworth looks back on his life and contemplates big ideas like nature, creativity, the human mind, and his own calling as a poet. It's here that the poem becomes deeply philosophical. To tell this sprawling story, Wordsworth uses blank verse, which is unrhymed iambic. This form allows the poetry to sound natural and conversational, almost like someone thinking aloud, which is perfect for exploring the deep and winding paths of memory and thought. Now let's dive into the main themes. The most important one is nature as a teacher and guide. For Wordsworth, nature isn't just a pretty backdrop. It's an active, powerful force that shapes his moral, spiritual, and imaginative growth. The mountains, rivers, and lakes of his childhood were his first and best teachers, inspiring a sense of awe and creativity that stayed with him his whole life. Another key theme is the growth of the mind, or self. The poem is a psychological and spiritual journey, showing how different experiences, both good and bad, mold our character and intellect. Wordsworth is essentially mapping his own consciousness. Imagination and emotion are also central. For romantics like Wordsworth, imagination wasn't just about making things up. It was the highest form of human perception, a way to see the deeper truth in the world. He believed that our emotional responses to nature are what lead to true poetic insight. The poem also grapples with society and revolution. Wordsworth's reflections on the French Revolution are fascinating. He goes from youthful enthusiasm for its ideals to deep disillusionment with its violence and chaos. This experience forces him to think about human freedom, social justice, and moral responsibility in a much more complex way. Finally, there's the theme of memory and reflection. Wordsworth famously said that poetry is emotion recollected in tranquility. In the Prelude, he constantly looks back at his past, showing how memory allows us to process our experiences and connect the innocence of childhood with the wisdom of adulthood. Let's look at a couple of key passages that illustrate these themes. The childhood episodes are some of the most famous. He describes skating on a frozen lake with his friends, feeling a sense of pure joy and freedom. In another famous scene, he borrows a boat at night and is overcome by a sense of awe and fear when a huge mountain peak seems to rise up and chase him. These moments show how nature can inspire both delight and a profound sense of the sublime. His passages on the French Revolution are a stark contrast. He captures the initial thrill of a world being remade. A bliss was it in that dawn to be alive. But he then describes his despair as the revolution descends into the reign of terror. This section is a powerful meditation on idealism versus reality. In his more mature reflections, Wordsworth contemplates his role as a poet. He sees the poet not just as an entertainer, but as a kind of spiritual guide who helps others see the world with more clarity and feeling. For anyone studying the poem, these passages are perfect examples of how Wordsworth turns his personal life into universal art. So, why is the Prelude so significant? It really revolutionized poetry. It was one of the first and greatest autobiographical poems, proving that a poet's own life and inner world could be the subject of a grand, epic work. It cemented the romantic celebration of the individual, the power of nature, and the importance of personal experience. Its use of blank verse to blend narrative storytelling with philosophical reflection was groundbreaking and influenced countless poets who came after him, from the Romantics like Shelley and Keats to the Victorians and beyond. Wordsworth made it clear that the stuff of everyday life, when seen through the lens of imagination, can be just as sublime as any ancient myth. To wrap up, the Prelude is far more than just a long poem about one man's life. It's a journey through nature, imagination, and moral growth that invites us to look at our own lives. Wordsworth teaches us that our experiences, our emotions, and our quiet reflections are what shape us. He shows us that the growth of a single human mind is a story worth telling. Whether you're a student of literature, a budding poet, or just someone who loves nature, the Prelude reminds us that life itself, in all its complexity, can be poetry. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into classic literature.